the grants manager for the South Carolina Arts Commission. Thanks for joining us and welcome. I would like to go ahead and introduce some other staff that we have on the call with us this morning. We have Amber Westbrook, who's listed as our SC Arts Commission Grants Office. She's helping us monitor this, the call today and questions. And we have C. Scott Fitz, who is our program director for Artist Services, and she will be presenting to you today. Sorry, I had a little bit of an old age lapse of memory there. And then we have Laurel Posey, who is in our communications department with us today. So with that, we want to let you know a few things about housekeeping to take care of. First of all, we will be recording this call today, and that will be available to you after this call, and then Laura will be getting that posted to our website. It will take us a few days to kind of pull that down from the web and from the cloud and get it prepared and set up in our YouTube channel for you to view. So give us till sometime next week and we'll have that ready for you and up on our website with a link. So just be aware that we are going to be recording this. See, how do you want to handle questions? Do you want to take those as we go through? Do you want them to put them in the chat bar or all of the above?
Yes. I want all of the above. It's a small enough group. I think we can field questions as they come up.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody needs to say? If not, I'll turn the time over to you, C. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Before we start, Amber, have you started recording?
I have started recording.
Okay, so we are now recording. So C.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Again, it's good morning, everyone. It is great to see everyone here on this Zoom call. So one of the things I want to first talk about first is the difference between grants and fellowships. And I want to just start this off because I think that there are some, that people really don't necessarily understand the difference between the two. So I'll start with the difference between grants and fellowships is typically, fellowships are what I would like to refer to as merit awards, as opposed to being project driven. And merit awards typically, and in this case of the fellowships, are based on artistic merit, which is evident through your work samples, hopefully. And we've also added artistic achievement. So the two of those we have linked together. I think maybe for the first time, if I'm not mistaken, Kathy, we haven't asked, or Laurel, we haven't asked for CVs or resumes up until this point, but now we're asking for CVs or resumes in addition to the support materials.
So that's correct, as far back as I can remember.
The fellowships do not require a match. They're based on artistic merit and achievement, and they are not project driven. Grants, on the other hand, typically will require a match. And if you think about grants being the opposite of fellowship. So your support materials are important, but it really is typically based on a project. So then we're going to have another conversation of trying to figure out which grant or which fellowship is for you and how you determine that. what I find happening a lot of times is artists will see money that's out there and they just start applying for everything. Now, you know, there is a problem with that because having a shotgun approach isn't necessarily the best use of your time. And also you may find yourself getting really frustrated because you're like, I'm applying for all these things and I'm not getting anything. When the first thing that probably needs to happen before you start to apply for anything is determining, what you want to do, how much it's going to cost, and then that will determine where you go to get the money. So that's a suggestion that I have. This year, for our fellowships, the fellowships are going to be visual art, which includes craft, media, production, and media screenwriting. So if you are outside of those disciplines, the time for you to apply for a fellowship will be in the upcoming years, but not for this fiscal year. The deadline is coming up for fellowships in November. You apply in November, and the fellowships are reviewed the following spring, and then the award takes place next fiscal year, which begins July 1st of next year, and then it ends the following year. Okay. So if you are needing money for a particular project, you would, one, probably not be looking at a fellowship, and two, should be looking at what kind of grants are out there. One thing I want to say about the fellowship panelists are that the panelists are made up of artists, arts professionals, curators, and arts administrators. All of them come from outside of South Carolina. I've been in the past identifying these panelists through my connections with other arts councils, as well as the NEA and grant makers in the arts. So that's where I will contact colleagues and talk to them about panelists that they have used, or maybe even use some of the staff that are from some of these places.
We have a couple of questions coming in.
Yes.
We have, what is the cycle for the grant?
Okay. And so Catherine, the cycle for the fellowship, you mean? Oh, you're muted, Catherine.
You talked about the cycle for the fellowship, but I was wondering if there was a similar cycle for the grant in terms of application deadline, how it's reviewed, and then when it's awarded.
Yes, and I will talk about that in just a moment.
Okay.
Someone else had a question about whether or not the fellowship includes visual artists. Yes, this year the fellowship is for visual art, craft, media, screenwriting, and media production is this year. So Catherine, I'm going to address your questions about the AVI grant and other grants in just a minute. As soon as I finish, I'm going to talk a little bit more about fellowships. When the panelists are looking at the support materials, they are looking for artistic quality. That's how they determine artistic merit, which brings me to another thing. And that is, you want to make sure that you are only showing your best work. I think we have, and Kathy, you'll have to, or someone will have to back me up on this, but I think as part of the guidelines, it has in the, on the website that visual artists in particular can upload up to 10 images. The operative, what I want everyone to hear is up to 10 images. That means If you've got 8 stellar images and 2 that are just like, I'm not so sure about, or they're not your best work, you would be better off uploading the 8. Don't feel compelled to upload all 10 unless that's a requirement. And that's something that is going to change depending on who you're looking at for your fellowships or grants. Some of them will say, you have to upload 10 or 15 or whatever. So just keep that in mind. And this might go without saying, but please, please, please make sure that you have your artwork professionally documented. Unless you are a photographer, a professional photographer, chances are you are not the best choice to be photographing or documenting your work. It may cost a little bit more money, but in the long run, you'll be better off if you have your work professionally documented. What is more important, recent work or best work? Yes. It needs to be recent work and best work. Some of the guidelines will say work created within the last 5 years or 6 years. I think that's what we have, Kathy.
Yes, for fellowship, it's the last 5 years. And I think ABI is the same.
Yes.
I have to look at, yeah. And I just wanted to add one more thing too, is to also kind of, with the work samples, with your up to 10, you want to kind of include a breadth of your work and not just one focus or one particular, you know what I'm saying, C?
Yes, I do. And I agree with that. Now, a breadth of your work does not necessarily mean, a bag of Skittles where you've got like one of every flavor, but
Right.
it might mean 3, 3, and 3. Or 2, 2, and 2, but not one of each, because the challenge with having one of each is that you look like you're a little bit kind of, what is this person doing? It looks like a completely different artist.
But I'd also say too, I think that if your best work is one particular exhibition or type of, or I can't think of the word, but if it's not to the best benefit for you to show the breadth, then you want to focus on the best work. Correct?
Yeah. Let's see, do I have anything else for fellowships?
Did we have,
I think we have another question about.
yeah.
Detail shots.
What is it?
Detail. Yeah.
Detail shots? Are the details included in the 10 or in addition to the 10?
I have challenges with detail shots, unless it's a 3-dimensional piece. That's probably my own kind of quirky weirdness. I would be really careful with detail shots. You might want to include maybe one if you feel like it's really essential to the piece. But I would not recommend having half of your application be detailed shots.
And we do have a question, C, on what is a detail shot. So
the detail shot would be a close-up of a piece, a super close-up, so that you can see if you are a 2-dimensional artist Fran, I'm going to use Fran as an example. If you are someone that works with layers and there's a lot of texture in your piece, you would want that kind of supports your application and strengthens your support materials to be able to show that sort of detail and what that texture looks like. So, but I think one is probably a gracious plenty with that.
And I will add to that that we allow up to 10 uploads. So if you do include a detail, it is part of the 10 images that you're allowed to upload.
Yeah. And we're focusing on visual art right now in terms of this conversation, but just keep in mind too that this year's cycle is open to, media, which, that has a whole different set of, criteria and what to upload. The only thing that is the same is, again, show your best work and make sure that the visuals are really, really clear. Things are in focus. If there is audio, make sure that the sound doesn't sound like somebody's talking through a tin can. Any other questions about fellowships? I see another question here. I think we have that. Right. Now I want to talk a little bit about grants, and specifically this year, what we have coming up is our AVI grant. And the AVI grant is definitely, it's a little bit more than just being project driven. It is for, and Kathy, if you want to pull up, the rationale behind, the purpose of the AVI grant, that would be helpful. But it's typically, sorry?
Amber's going to do that for us.
Okay. Thank you, Amber.
Sure.
Yes.
So the AVI grant is for an ongoing business venture or a one-time project. And here we have on Amber's shared screen the purpose of this grant. So I'm going back to making sure that what you want to achieve, the grants that you're looking at support what your end game is, what you want to achieve. So this is really specific. To encourage and enable the creation, expansion, and modification of artist-driven, arts-based business ventures that will provide career satisfaction and sustainability for South Carolina artists. So examples of that would be, I'll point to our current AVI recipients. One is a fashion designer. We can stop sharing screen now, Amber. Thank you. One is a fashion designer. Another one is a ceramic artist who is using the grant to expand their and strengthen their studio. Another is another ceramic artist who is using this grant for equipment, also to support their business and studio. The fourth one is going to be a jeweler who is getting casting equipment that is going to support their business. The AVI grant is two parts. We have a letter of intent to apply, which is fairly straightforward. It's exactly what it says it is. And you are just basically letting us know what you would want to use this grant for. The reason why we have this particular grant divided up into two processes, application processes, is because we want to be able to first determine whether or not what you are wanting to do fits within these grant guidelines. The second reason is the actual application is pretty involved and quite lengthy. So we don't want to have artists going through this lengthy process and finding out at the end that maybe this particular grant was not for them in the first place. So that's why we have it divided up into two. Let's see.
Another a question: would this include a collaborative project or individual?
This is not a collaborative. It's not a collaborative project. However, if you are in business and you have staff or you have a partner that is running this business or this effort with you, they would be part of the process. You probably would list them and maybe even include their resume or something that speaks to their credentials, but there's only one person that can be listed on the grant. Any other questions? Okay, so with the AVI panelists, the AVI panelists who will be reviewing the final application are made up of entrepreneurs, arts administrators who have worked extensively with individual artists on various endeavors. And I have a third one. Also some of the people that make up the selection panel are leading business schools or business departments, and they may be connected with various universities. The thing that we're doing differently this year with the AVI grant, if you do apply and are invited to complete a full application, we are requiring you to attend a webinar that will be hosted by the grants team, myself, and we're bringing in one of the current AVI recipients who has gone through this process and can provide kind of like an inside look at, like, start to finish, what that looks like, pitfalls to avoid, challenges, and that sort of thing. And I think that this sort of offering is going to be really important and essential before any AVI applicant can successfully complete their application. Those artists that are thinking about doing something like the AVI will also need to be well-versed and consider how they are going to talk about financials, how they are tracking their business. Okay. Let's see. And I don't think I have anything else.
Can I clarify a question?
Yes.
Can this be for something brand new, or it should be ongoing?
It can be, and Amber, would you pull up the AVI grant again?
Sure.
So if you scroll down, eligible, let's see, where does it, okay, here we go. So if you look, Lauren, at this, I'm pointing like you can, people can
Right here.
yeah, thank you, Amber. If you look at this South Carolina artists may use the AVI funding to help launch a new arts-based business venture or significantly alter an existing venture, okay, that will operate in an ongoing manner or help execute a temporary venture, a one-time project, or a single purchase. So one example of a one-time project would be if you are looking to do a documentary. This would be, this could fall under that. It's a one-time thing. Lauren, does that answer your question? Or do you have a?
Yeah, no, I think it does. Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Catherine, you look pensive. Oh, you're muted.
No, I'm just thinking about like just what I'd like to consider it for, and you know, my wheels are churning with a conversation here. I did notice something too down in the corner. It said something about a 1 to 2 thing match or something when you had to.
Yes, and so if I could get the grants office to talk a little bit more about matches and exactly what that means.
Sure. I'll jump in. So when we talk about matches, if you notice on the screen, the match is a 1 to 2, and in parentheses it says grantee, and then SC Arts Commission, or South Carolina Arts Commission. So that means that for every $2 that the Arts Commission puts into the project or to the grant award, the grantee has to match it with $1. So if your award is $1,000, then you have to put in $500 to the $1,000 of the project, and so that means that the whole expense for our considerations, and maybe larger than that, but what you need to have in expenses to receive that $1,000 from us is $1,500. Is that clear? Amber, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you said it perfectly.
Okay. And you will also be aware of in the AVI grant that there is no in-kind allowed in this particular grant. So that is, you have to put, if you have a $1,000 award from us, you've got to add $500 to the pot, so that your whole expense is at least $1,500. If it's more and you get other funding from another source, that's great. But in this particular instance, if we awarded $1,000, you would need to put $500 in. Fellowships is a no match. And like C said, it's more of a merit award, which is a great definition, I think, of this category. And so the Arts Commission just pays you $5,000. It's not project-based. It's based on you. You do what you want with it. We've had some that have expanded studios with it and done lots of different things. You can buy supplies. It's yours, without strings attached, basically.
And can we talk a little bit about in-kind? So just so we make sure that everybody's clear on exactly what that means, especially if they're looking at other grants that allow in-kind to be part of the match.
Oh, wow. I got to come up with a good example. Laurel, do you have a good example? I mean,
basically, you can think of in-kind as something that you would normally have had to pay for that you didn't have to pay for it. You didn't have to pay as much for. So, for example, if you would have ordinarily had to buy a certain amount of clay for a project and you found a local business that donated that amount of clay to you, the value of that would be an in-kind amount. For us, generally speaking, a lot of artist grants, we don't allow in-kind, but it kind of depends on the grant. But that's one way of thinking of it, is something you would have had to pay for, but you didn't have to.
Yeah.
The value of that is in-kind.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of, when you're talking about examples, I'm thinking of like an example. Another example could be if you're looking at your application, at an application that does allow in-kind, if you would normally have to pay for, like you were saying, clay, and that clay is worth $500. When you submit your portion of what your match is going to be, if you're needing to come up with $1,000 and you are allowed in kind, you could list 500 of that in kind as part of your match, and then the other 500 could be cash from you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we had a question in the chat from Fran. She has a question about grants budgeting, and she said she also has a question about other grants.
Okay.
If she wanted to unmute.
Yes, Fran, what's your grant budgeting question?
Budgeting question is, and this has always been confusing to me on writing grant budgets. If my project costs more than your grants, okay, so let's say I'm applying for the $5,000, but my project is $15,000. Well, let's make it 10. So if we have to do math, it'll be easier. Do you want me to only apply for a portion showing exactly what that 5,000 would pay for, or do you want to know the whole grant budget? So let's say, for example, you mentioned in one of the you mentioned as one of the examples of something you have funded in the past was the expansion of a studio. And I am certain that probably costs more than the $5,000. So how would that person prepare the budget if they know the project is costing more than they're applying for through your grant?
And I may need some help here with from the grants team. I would say that what I have seen is that they show the entire cost.
Okay.
Understanding that, you know, the grant is for a fixed amount or up to a fixed amount, and but they still show the entire cost. And then it's up to, if they get the award, it's going to be up to them to decide, do they want to use the award to focus on, you know, this one large portion of, you know, the upfit of the studio. I'm just using that as an example. Or if they want to use the grant and kind of use a quarter of the grant for this part, a quarter of the grant for this. I mean, it's going to be up to them to decide how they want to do that.
Okay, so let me follow up on that. So on your grant budget prep sheet that I'm assuming is a part of this grant, I haven't looked at the application materials. So on the grant budget sheet, there's somewhere that's going to say total grant project expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the entire outfitting of the studio. We're using this other example.
Yes.
And then somewhere on there, it's going to say what you're asking the Arts Commission to fund.
The amount, correct.
And then
Right.
in justification, the narrative, the person would have to say in the narrative what they're going to use the requested amount for specifically. And do they need to also include where they're getting the rest of the money?
I think they do. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that correct? Yes. Yes.
Yes, there's a section for the other income.
Okay. So what if you don't, what if you've applied or you're looking to apply for several grants to build the whole pot of money up? can you say requested money? I mean, or does that make the application a little shaky if that money isn't already in hand?
Well, I think you would say that you're requesting, the money. But the applicant requesting the money and the applicant proving or being able to confirm that they're going to be able to do the match are two different things. So requesting the money and the application and the match requirement are all kind of different limbs on the same tree. If that makes, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
I
helpful.
don't know if there's another better way to explain that.
I always find that really difficult on the budgeting forms on certain grants where it says, what is the total budget and what are you asking for? And those two things don't match. And I don't ever know what you're looking for, not you specifically, but grantors are looking for when they make the budget form, you know, kind of obscure that way. What are you really asking me to tell you? So that's helpful to know.
Yeah, and I think that too, the language, the grant language can help you determine whether or not that particular grant will suit your needs.
Right.
So if you have a project and you really need this lump sum, let's say you need $10,000, otherwise the project is just not going to go. $5,000 really isn't going to do much for you. Then maybe this isn't, this might not be the grant. And then the other conversation is determining or finding out another grant that is going to support you, totally, rather instead of, giving you something towards what you're trying to achieve.
And so that takes me to my follow-up question, and then I'll stop, I promise. My follow-up question is the Arts Commission going to do what in the past has been called like the individual artist grant or something like that?
The artist project, the APS grants.
Those coming back?
We are not sure. It's going to depend on what goes on with the budget, which we're hoping we'll find out sometime this fall.
Okay. And when you say other grants, are there ways that we can find out what those other grants are? Because, I'm out there looking every day and I don't see any grants out there other than for emergency relief. I'm not seeing project grants. I'm just not seeing other grant sources. Do y'all know something we don't know?
I have been regularly looking to see what grants are out there. And Fran, you're right. With everything that's going on, there has been a major shift away from project grants and towards, emergency funds to support artists. But I think because a lot of these entities have run out of money, I'm seeing a decline in emergency grants, and now I'm seeing people getting back to, or agencies and entities getting back to supporting projects. So I'm happy to share with everyone. I should have everyone's, most of everyone that's on here, their email.
We can pull that list for you as well.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. So I'm happy to send you updates as I find out about grants specifically for projects. I'll just forward those to you, because there's not a place right now where those live on our website, because we're just maintaining the emergency grants page. Randy,
We have
a question? Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Fran?
Yes.
I was just thanking you. That would be very helpful, because I feel like we're all out here kind of repeating the same work and finding the same problem. If we had a source, or, the central kind of hub, as the Arts Commission has kind of labeled the newsletter, to find information, it would just, keep us all from, sort of spinning our wheels out here, going, kind of running into the same brick walls.
Well, and I do want to say something about the hub and our website, the hub in particular, and Arts Daily. You will get more out of that if you check it regularly, because Jason, we are posting things, if not every day. I think Jason posts something on the hub just about every day. And then Arts Daily is a different thing, that you've got people outside, agencies, artists outside of the agency that can upload opportunities on Arts Daily. So those are two things that if it's too much for you to check every day, maybe every other day, can strongly encourage you to do that.
Thank you for the link, Laurel. Laurel sent the Arts Hub link. I just went ahead and put that in the chat for everyone. And we also had a question from Catherine.
Okay.
A couple of those in the chat. And I think this was talking about in kind, if that's correct, Catherine, regarding if it was also true for the 1-to-2 match, to say where it's coming from, or for the income.
Yes. I mean, I think
There you go.
I think
When it was in that conversation, when you all were talking about, do you have to specify exactly within that, say you had a $10,000 budget, you're applying for $5,000, do you have to specifically say, in the case of the upfitting of the studio, it's going to go for plumbing, or it's going to go for electric?
yes, I think the
line item.
Yes, I think the more detail that you can provide, the stronger your application.
Mm-hmm.
So if you specify in the budget some of the specifics like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're saying that you're going to take our $5,000 or that we're saying that you have to take our $5,000 and put it towards the plumbing. Our $5,000 is going towards your project that you proposed in general, and the funding for that.
Right, and you have a line item about this is going to cost this is going to cost this, so you can kind of do the math yourself. And then the other question was in saying where all of your funds are coming from, if you need more, saying where your 1-to-2 match is coming from, do you have to specify that as well? So if I got to, come up with $2,500, do I say, I'm taking it out of my savings account, or I got somebody else, or is that not relevant?
So the budget spreadsheet does allow for that. And so we're not actually saying that you put in there, I'm taking this from savings, but there's a line item that's called applicant cash, which is if you're taking it out of savings, that would be where you would put that. And then there's other options for funding resources. There's earned income. So if there's an event that you're having, I know we're talking mainly visual artists here, but let's say that you have an event that's getting admissions for, you can add that. There's unearned income, which that's where you kind of put your donations, if people are donating to your project, or if you have other grants that you've applied for or are applying for, you can list those in there as well. So it's fairly detailed, probably for more detailed than necessary for a project, but it's kind of a standard budget form that we're using at this time, so that we're not having to edit 15 different budget forms when we make a change. So hopefully this will work for you, and we're always tweaking if we need to make things better. We're trying to always improve and make things better for you. So feedback is always great as well if you are having issues or something just doesn't seem to fit.
And thank you, Laurel. Sorry, Laurel sent us a message, but I think it might be good to mention that most of our project grant awards, especially AVI, is paid on a reimbursement basis.
Yes.
So,
Very good.
It is a quarterly report that you do send in, and based off of that, you have the 2 payments and then one final for the grant award. It's not something you just get up front. So it just kind of helps us see your progress.
And
And
Amber,
that's,
it's 80%, and then the last 20 is at the final report, correct?
For this one in particular, there is up to 80% that they do receive with those 2 interim payments, and then the 20% at the final report.
I will add the thing about the AVI payments, and with this particular grant, is that it's important that you keep your receipt and keep track of your expenditures, because really what's happening, I think, with the final report, I mean, with some of these quarterly reports, is you're submitting your report and you're showing proof of what you have already spent in order to get this money, to you, back. And I just remembered, Catherine, you had a question about the grant period for the AVI, and the grant period would be for this coming AVI grant would be July 1st of next year, and then the final report, Kathy, jump in here, I think is December of 2022.
yes.
So that's the period.
All right, I think let's see, a little bit more, I guess, about fellowships. We have a question here from Gina. Can you talk a little bit more about merit, and what are you looking for specifically?
Okay, so with artistic merit, how that is determined is quality. Quality of that you are the master of your craft, whatever your craft is, whatever your discipline is, that is of the highest quality. That's what when we're referring to artistic merit. That's what we're referring to, and that can only be determined by in these instances from your support materials, whether they're music compositions, poems, whatever it is, it has to be the highest quality. And that's what the panelists are looking for.
From Fran.
Fran, how many grants and fellowships are, okay, so with I'll start with the fellowships. The fellowships, there are 4 awarded each year, 1 per category. And with the AVI grants, those are up to 4, because those again are up to $3,500 up to $5,000. So this I don't know that we've ever done more than 4. Kathy?
Have we had 5 before, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm looking, I think, yeah, I'd have to go back and look beyond foundant years.
Yes.
A lot of this is determined by not just how much money we have, but also how many people apply. So let's just say there are 4 people that do the final application, and then the panelists recommend all 4 for the exact amount that they have asked for, then that more or less would probably take care of the whole budget. The flip side of that is if we have, say, 7 people that do the full application, and 5 of those have been recommended by the panelists, but all 5 didn't ask for the max. They asked for, a little bit less than the 3,500. It's possible that those 5 will be funded, because not only is it recommended, but we also have the money to fund all 5. So it's not like with an APS grant where there might be during the course of the year several individual artists, like 10 or 12 individual artists supported with the APS grant. This is going to be a different thing. Also with the APS grant, this is the only one that we have at the moment that is or will hopefully have again, that is a rolling grant. That may be something else for people to think about, especially if you are trying to get money for an upcoming project. Consider looking at grants that have a rolling deadline. So you apply for it when you need it, that it's reviewed monthly or weekly, and then the funds are pretty much dispersed fairly quickly. With the commission, our rolling, our APS grant has a 6 weeks. So you would apply for it 6 weeks from when you need the money.
You would initially start that project.
Yes.
And we do have one more question from Diane. Can you apply for fellowship and grant simultaneously?
Yes.
So you can look at our guidelines, and in the individual guidelines, you can look for the restrictions. And so the only restriction on the ABI, the Artist Ventures Initiative grant, is past recipients cannot reapply. So if you've already received an Artist Ventures Initiative grant, then you are not able to apply in that category. But I do not see any restrictions that if you're applying for a fellowship that you cannot apply for another grant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you have had a fellowship previously, Kathy, you can also, you're eligible, but it has to be so many years. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me look at that. Trying to remember. All right, so there's a limit of 3 South Carolina Arts Commission fellowships in your career, and a period of 10 years after the first fellowship is awarded. So you have to wait 10 years before you can apply for a second.
Share that with you guys. There we go.
Oh, wait a minute. I just saw. I was looking at the restrictions in the other grant categories, which we may, but it does say if you are a fellow, you are not eligible to receive any other Arts Commission awards during your fellowship year. So if you're applying for a fellowship now, you're applying for a fellowship that's going to take place in our FY22 year. So you could apply for arts project grant support in this year, but you could not in FY22 if you are awarded.
Yeah. I see a question from Roy. Can we submit our project to anyone at the commission who might guide us to the best grant to fit the project? Roy, the person you would be talking to would be me. So you can, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about your project anytime. Because, and what will take place during that conversation is we'll be looking at grants within the commission, but also I may have some suggestions for you outside of the commission.
Awesome. Got that thumbs up from Roy. Thank you.
Well, and that goes for all, everyone here too. I mean, many of you I've been in conversation with for several months about different opportunities, but please know that you can always reach out to me, and happy to help you. Other questions? Okay, Grants, you have anything else to add?
Not at this time. And just thank you again for joining us and giving us this time this morning. And on this nice fall morning, it's nice to have some cool weather for a change. And we hope you found this helpful. We are here. C is here to help you with your projects. The grants team is here to help you with any questions that you might have about our grants portal. managing your grant. If you have a grant from us, we're happy to help you with that. If you're having technical difficulties with the application, that's what we're here for. Steve will help you with anything that's related to your project and what's a great fit for your grant. She's the best person to go to for that kind of information.
Does everyone have a way to reach me on here?
Would you like me to post your information?
Yes, you can, but I think everyone should have my email address. And what we can do for those people that want to have just a separate conversation about their project and grants opportunities, if you will send an email to me, we can set up a time when we can talk one-on-one.
And thank you, Laurel, for the reminder. Her information is located at the bottom of the guidelines for AVI and fellowship. So you can find Steve's information there.
Thank you, Laurel. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, we will say goodbye for now until the next time. And we look forward to seeing you again and talking with you.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. For those that are interested in specifically the AVI grant, we are going to have another Zoom that's going to focus just on that. And that's coming up on October 15th. I think, Kathy, is that right?
Hang on. Let me, don't stop scrolling. Thank you. Calendar. Yep. October 15th at 3 o'clock.
Yes. So
we've had some calendaring difficulties, so we want to make sure.
This is confirmed.
Please,
the website is right and the hub is right with the date and time for that event.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Hi, Roy.
You too. Thank you so much.
Okay, how are you?
Fine. How are you?